Hello, my name is Danielle Thwaites. I make music under the name Daiza, and my workshop today is on vocal processing. So I'm just going to get right into it, and hopefully there's no streaming issues like I had last time. So here's my session. I'm in Ableton Live. As you can see here, this is just the vocal session. What I do with my vocal sessions is actually bounce out the original track you can see here. And I've got the full version with the demo vocals and an instrumental to track too. The reason why I do this is for saving on CPU. I don't want to be recording in a session that has a lot of processing already happening, a lot of CPU intense plugins, possibly like Serum or Omnisphere. This allows me to record with very, very little latency, if any at all. So I like to have a vocal session for every single track that I'm producing. And in this track, we have some male vocals. This is actually my buddy Jupiter Rex, his track, and I did the vocal production on this, and he let me use it for the demo today. So thank you. Let's just go ahead and check it out. Right now, there's not much. There's no processing going on. There's a couple of level changes here and there, but it's pretty stale. No reverb. Let's check it out a little bit before the verse. Oops.
Through a haze, a voice keeps calling. Curious, it draws me near. Becoming louder, the sweet cacophony sings all I'd like to hear. Separated from my body, I can go anywhere I choose. Under hell or out past heaven, either way I cannot lose. Come with me into the maze. We'll get lost and found in its astral haze. Close your eyes, take my hand. We'll dance with all the gods in their abstract lands.
Okay, so that's what I'm going to probably work on, is mainly this chorus here. So we have male vocal and we have female vocal. Very slight things will be different, but for the most part, where I want to start off is just with the good level and working on my spatial awareness. So what's going to be in the forefront, what's going to be in the background. Let's start with the male lead chorus vocal.
Come with me.
So when I'm tracking these vocals, I have an idea in mind. I like to have one vocal in the center, and I like to have a left and a right very slightly panned and tucked in volume so that it sounds like it's one super voice. So I'm going to take this, what I've already labeled chorus left and chorus right. Just go ahead and move that a little bit to the left. I'm just going to type in -15 and then +15 for the right side.
Come with me into the maze.
Sounds pretty solid. Might turn down these left and right. I'm just going to hold shift, select them both, and bring them both down.
With me into the maze. We'll get lost and found in its astral haze.
With the rest of the track,
Come with me into the maze. We'll get lost and found in its astral.
it's sitting on top of it nicely. And then let's do the same thing, same idea for these background vocals. Now I've got 3 vocal stacks, so similar idea, but because they're background vocals, I actually want to take up more of the stereo width. So I'm going to leave the, not Siri, sorry, okay. I'm going to leave this D1 in the center. And then for the first one, let's do like -25 for the left, and then +25 on the right. And you can see here, I've already kind of tucked what I'm thinking are the background vocals a bit. Come with me into the Let's hear him with his vocals.
Come with me into the maze. We'll get lost and found in its astral haze.
Definitely sounds like a supportive background vocal, which I like. I'm actually just gonna take my vocal and bring it down 1 dB.
Come with me.
Yeah, it's sitting nicely. So I've done already a little bit of gain staging, set these levels accordingly, and a tiny bit of what should I say, stereo panning. So from my left into my right to make room a little bit more for the rest of the elements that are in this track. The next thing that I want to do is EQ. So I'm just going to go into my audio effects here. EQ8 is my shit. Excuse me, I shouldn't curse. Anyways, before I throw this on, I just want to kind of mention why I have this ridiculous group. So I've got the J Vox and the D Vox, and within the J Vox group, there are several other groups, including a verse, chorus, bridge, and outro group. Groups inside of groups. Amazing thing about Live 10.1. This chorus group, I also have the main and then the 2 harmonies that come in later on. So this allows me to actually process the entire chorus main, the entire chorus harmony, all as one entity because they're grouped together, they're summed together. This becomes really helpful for when we're dealing mainly with background vocals because we can kind of mesh them, glue them together a lot easier instead of having multiple instances of the same processing. Because this is the main vocal, I really want to do it justice. So when I grab this EQ, I'm going to put it directly on the chorus lead right here. And I'm just going to solo in on just the lead. So, I mean, one of the first things that everyone teaches you when it comes to vocal processing is to cut out the lows, right? We don't need much of this low end frequency. And in fact, all of that low end is just going to sit and add on top of each other, making the whole track sound very, very muddy. So for a male vocal, I usually like to shoot around 80 hertz. And I'm realizing that you cannot see that because it's so crazy. So maybe actually just do this. Is that probably better? I'd like to have you understand what I'm saying, so I'm just going to move myself over here. I hope that works for everyone. All right. So again, I'm cutting this around 80 hertz.
Come with me into the maze. We'll get lost and found.
He's got a ringiness going on a little bit in this treble area. And one thing that I like to do to help find those problem frequencies is to do a little peak and sweep. I'm going to click on this headphone button, this little Q icon, and that means that as I sweep through this frequency spectrum, I'm going to actually be able to hear only the frequencies that are in this band. There's definitely something around here that is a little piercing, a little whistly. So with that frequency peaked up, what I'm going to do is just navigate back down to the EQ and bring that gain down so that my frequency stays locked in. Also here we have the Q. The Q is the bandwidth. So you have that frequency that you're either attenuating or boosting, and how many frequencies around that are you going to be also boosting? So if we have a very, very large bandwidth, it's actually a very, very small, narrow frequency range. And if I bring it down, we can see that that is a huge frequency range that we are now affecting. Bring it up.
Come with me.
Still hearing something a little bit. Let's keep sweeping. And also I've got this little trick. If I hold down Option and move up and down, I'm actually changing the bandwidth. So a little trick if you're in Ableton. Yeah, something's gross up here. Oh, it's just pretty horrendous. Sorry, I'm being dramatic. It's not that bad. I'm just gonna, around 8 kilohertz here, just bring down. See, I'm not bringing them down a crap load. I like to not make any real surgical attenuations or boosts more than 3 dB, either negative 3 dB or positive 3 dB. You shouldn't have to be so surgical if the actual recording was done properly. And if you're finding that you're having to really do a lot of this effort to make it sound clearer or better, then you might just be better off actually re-recording the takes. Let's do an A-B. I'll turn it off. Sounds pretty good. I'm actually going to loosen these up a little bit. I don't want to lose too much of the vocal clarity. And I'm just going to add in one more band. Whoa. We see that that's an interesting band that that's automatically selected. So just to run through these, which I kind of forgot to here, we've got a high pass as our first two. So if I actually teach this correctly, then I'll show you all of these a little bit nicer. So just with this first band, the first one here I've got is a high pass. So the high frequencies are passing, the low ones are being cut. In fact, I have that same band times 4, so a harsher slope there to really surgically EQ something out. I've also got this shelf, so this would be a low shelf, boosting those low frequencies. On the other end, we start to flip it around, and I've got a high shelf, so now boosting the high frequencies. In between that, we've got just a normal parametric band, boosting or attenuating whatever frequency I select. And then the next one, you see with this parametric EQ, we can go up or down. Right underneath that, we can only go down. This is a notch filter, so I can't bring it up enough to actually boost that frequency. We are only attenuating. We are only decreasing whatever this frequency is that we set. And then the one following that, like we saw, that's a crazy shelf to either boost or attenuate. And then again, oops, crazy resonance there. We've got the opposite of what we saw before. It's actually a high cut, low pass filter. Also that times 4. Okay. So now that you're up to speed here, with this fourth band that I just added, it's a shelf. It's kind of ridiculous. I don't need to do that, so I'm just going to bring me back to the little bell here. And let's find some nice warmth, the body of the vocal. So we see all of these, frequencies across. There's a fundamental here. There's really where the pitch is coming from in the chest voice. And then there's all of these overtones or harmonics that basically are just his voice, how we can tell the difference between a guitar playing the note A and how my voice is singing a note A would be because of those harmonic overtones. And just the way that they are oriented gives you this tone. So I'm just going to boost a little bit of that body, 500. Okay, rad. So I'm into that. If we listen to it with the others, now it sounds like the left and the right aren't so controlled. So what I'm going to do is just take this same EQ. I'm going to hold down Option. You see if I hold down Option, I get a little plus sign. I don't know if you can see that actually in the Twitch world, but I get a plus sign, which means I'm making a duplication. And this is just, something, it works with anything. I don't know if I can actually show you an easy way that would work, but like if I take this clip and I hold down Option, I'm just going to make a copy. As long as I continue to hold down Option, it will duplicate that idea versus just clicking it and dragging it somewhere else. So because this is a harmonic layer, or a double, if you will, I'm going to not do that boost. I'm just going to turn off that fourth band there. Let's see how that sounds. Yeah, that's not too bad. I'm actually going to go back and make this fourth band a high shelf. But instead of boosting it, I'm actually going to attenuate a little bit and cut off some of those brights. Mainly because I don't need the pronunciation of the vocal, and you start to hear pronunciation between 1 kilohertz, and then you get up to about 5 kilohertz, and that's the sibilants, you know, with all the S's and T's and CH's, all that stuff. That just becomes really piercing. And if you have something panned to the left and the right, they can really start to catch your ear, and, you know, not make it sound like one unified voice like our goal is. So I like what I've done. I'm going to take this same EQ, again, Option, drag it to the right channel. So now the left and the right on this chorus are the same EQ. With the lead,
Close your eyes, take my hand, we'll dance with all the gods in their abstract lands.
the next thing with this vocal in particular is that it's very dynamic. We've got the "come with me into the maze, we'll get," and then you got this you know, ebb and flow with the range, because it's such a wide range that there's parts where you're really belting, and we want to kind of control those so that the quietest parts seem just as powerful as the loudest moments. So I'm going to grab this compressor, put it on that chorus lead, and let's just work with this one. One thing that I'll point out is if you're kind of following along with me and you're using Ableton Live's compressor, by default, makeup gain is set on. I always turn mine off. In fact, I turned mine off, I right-clicked, and I saved this as my default preset because I do not want Ableton Live to make up for any of the gain that I've lost. And we'll talk a little bit more about that when we unpack this compressor. So, how a compressor works. The easiest definition that I have for it is that it's a dynamics squisher. So what you do is you take the threshold down and you say everything that goes above this threshold, I need it to be compressed. I need it to be lowered in volume. By how much? By how much is set by the ratio. So if we go over the threshold and the ratio is set 2 to 1, for every 2 dB that go over the threshold, 1 dB will come out. And as I increase this ratio, we're increasing the amount of compression. So 5 dB goes over, 1 comes out. So that's a very, very high compression ratio. And you can see this goes up to infinity. So we can really make it a brick wall and sound like it's slamming. And then you have attack and release. So once we go over the threshold, how soon will this compressor be engaged? Once we go below the threshold, how soon will it be disengaged? So for vocal, I like to start at a 4 to 1 ratio. And then depending on where my threshold is, it totally depends on the vocal. And for me, I like to take it at the quietest point. So just looking at this, it might be this word around here, it might be this area over here, but let's just take a listen.
Come with me into the maze, we'll get lost in fact.
So I definitely don't want to miss the "will get lost," that lyric there.
We'll get lost,
So I know I'm going to bring my threshold at least to that point. But just to iterate,
get lost in fact.
until we have gain reduction, there's no compression actually happening. So as I bring this down, so I know it's quieter, but you can maybe actually hear that the "will get lost," even though he shouts that word "lost," it actually sounds like it's at the same volume level. Let's rewind a little bit and check it out. Okay. Hope you're hearing that. And I'm going to do a couple more things to make it a little bit more obvious as we dial this in. So the next option is the attack. So this is a question I ask my students all the time. What should the attack be? For something that you really want to hear the beginning transient of, the beginning of a word or the top of a drum hit, you want to have a pretty long attack, and maybe even longer than you think. If I bring this up to like 10 milliseconds.
Into the maze, we'll get lost and found in its astral haze.
Comparatively, I can hear the beginning of each vocal or each word a little bit better. I'm just going to start from the bottom of this attack, bringing it all the way down, and then I'm going to gradually increase this. See if you can hear what's going on. Let me just get this set up for looping.
Come with me into the maze, we'll get lost and found in its astral haze. Close your eyes, take my hand, we'll dance with all the gods in their abstract lands.
So you saw once I actually got up to 100 milliseconds, the vocal became way more clear. That's because we're not compressing the beginnings of the words, and that helps the pronunciation come out. So now what we're only compressing is the everything else is being kept at the same loudness, if you will, and that's really helping give this vocal a little bit more clarity. For the release, honestly, auto. Let's just automatically do this, not think too much about it.
Come with me into the maze.
Now what we need to do is, set this back up to quote-unquote radio level. If I turn this compressor off,
Come with me.
it just really sounds like this compressor is doing what it does and is making it quieter. That's why I don't like makeup game being on, because if I have this on,
Come with me.
that was too loud. I hope I didn't hurt anyone's eardrums, but that was too loud. We need to manually do this, and there's a really easy way to do this. Thank you, my mentor, Erin Barra, for teaching me this one, but here I go. I'm just going to navigate over to Session View. I like to use this as a mix window. And if I click, I'm going to turn this compressor off and click play.
Come with me.
All right, up until that point, my peak level on this chorus lead was negative 5.5. When I turn this compressor on,
Come with me.
that peak level was negative 8. So 5, 6, 7, 8, 3 dB of gain reduction is what we've lost so far. So all I'm going to do is go to my output here on the compressor and add specifically 3 dB. So now when we A-B it, it actually should be the correct or the same level, but actually being compressed. Let's check it out.
Come with me into the maze.
Here's the compressor.
We'll get lost and found in its astral haze.
I've gotten word to increase this live. Okay, 1 second. I can do this. I can do this. I think this is going to help. Let me know if it doesn't.
Come with me.
I can't tell from my end.
Into the maze, we'll get lost and found in its astral haze.
Without it,
Close your eyes.
I mean, just that word, close, totally got lost. And in fact, if we hear this with the music, which I haven't done, surprisingly, then it'll be a little bit more obvious. Let's check it out without.
Come with me into the maze.
On.
We'll get lost and found in its astral haze. Close your eyes, take my hand. We'll dance with all the gods in their abstract lands.
Nice. So that's really sitting on top now. Let's do it again. I have too much fun doing this. Okay. I'm going to grab another compressor. We're going to compress the background vocals, which is going to be slightly different than how I compress that lead vocal. And it's really just because of the attack. Same thing, threshold.
Come with me into the maze. We'll
Just
get
going
lost and
to that quiet point right there.
maze. We'll get lost.
Just making sure it's catching that word.
We'll get lost and
Cool. Catching it. I'm going to put it to 4, just whatever my magic number at this point. And then the attack. This is where it's going to get a little different. Because like we said when we were EQing, I really don't want the pronunciation of the background vocals or the layers. I really just want it to support with the body of the voice. So with that attack, we can actually have it be fairly quick. Like, what if we just did this? So it's just compressing the crap out of it. Versus, I know it's pretty quiet right now. So what I'm going to do is just, I think I want to keep this pretty low, like hilariously low on the attack. Auto for the release, we don't need to worry about that. It's not as important as everything else is. But let's do our A, B. What was that? Like, math is hard. 6 dB. Yeah. Got 6 dB. Cool. So we're compressing pretty heavily. And I'm just going to quickly hold Option, drag this compressor to the second background vocal or layer here.
Close your eyes, take my hand, we'll dance with all the gods in their abstract lands.
Now I'm going to try it with all of those vocals together, see how they're compressed.
Come with me into the maze, we'll get lost and found in its astral haze.
Okay, not mad. They're definitely sitting on top a little bit better of each other, especially making room for themselves and supporting each other.
Come with me into the maze, we'll get lost and found in its astral haze. Close your eyes, take my hand,
I mean, they sound great, they sound clear, they sound up front. There's no reverb, so they kind of sound funny to me. But we're gonna get there. In fact, I'm gonna quickly go back to these D vocals, my vocals, and do exactly what I did, but keeping in mind that this is a harmony. This is a background vocal. It's not the most important thing. So I'm actually gonna process this as an entire group. I'm going to take the EQ8, drag it onto that whole D vocal group. I'm going to take the compressor and drag that onto that whole D vocal group. So we're just going to process these all together. We've already got them panned. We already have the levels set differently for my left and my right. So it should just work. Let's try it.
come with me.
Well, we got to do something first, right? So, look at all of that garbage in the low end. Okay, it's over. We gotta get rid of it. With a female vocal, I like to just start the cutting around 100 hertz. We did 80 for the male vocal. It just really, and it's not male, female. It's really just like where the low end is sitting in their vocal. I've got a little bit more of an airy voice when I'm singing.
With me into the maze,
Not too harsh now.
Lost and found in its astral haze.
So we're doing about 90 hertz right there. I'm going to do the good old peek and sweep. You just want to find something that's bad. Something that's popping out at you that sounds bad. Ooh, what's going on over here? Little whistle tone there. I'll just clean that up. This is as surgical as it's gonna get.
With me.
Let's take that third band and do something different, continuing on in our frequency spectrum. Some more whistling. I tend to do that. Okay. And as you record yourself more, you'll just be like, yeah, those are the frequencies that sound bad on me. I'm just going to change that up. It's fine. As long as you know. I'm just talking to myself now. Okay.
Come with me into the maze. We'll get lost and found in its astral haze.
So, a question from Krithy Music. What kind of sounds constitute a bad sound to me? Yeah, it's super hard to figure that out, especially in the high end, right? I mean, you just took the words out of my mouth, honestly. It's mainly trial and error. If you take out that frequency, and you see I'm not taking it out a crap ton amount, it's just a little bit, and it's when it's piercing, it's when it's really nasty. It takes a little bit of practice to know like what is just a frequency that when it's isolated sounds really bad, but you can imagine that in the context of it, it's not going to sound good. So if these 2 and 3, these 2 bands I took off, let's just A-B them. So they're on right now. Quickly, I'll turn them off.
We'll get lost and found in its astral haze.
Back on.
Close your eyes, take my hand.
It's so subtle, and I can't even imagine if you can hear it on the other end of the interweb, but it's really just it's such a hard question to answer. It's really just about making sure that you don't like it. If it's hurting you for whatever reason, I have really sensitive ears to frequencies that are above 5 kilohertz. I find them very, very piercing and annoying. I'm always having to put a de-esser on my vocals to help bring down that sibilance, which really lives around 6 kilohertz. Mainly because if you're hearing me, you can hear that I just have a problem with sitting on the S's and T's of words. So I know that about myself, but it's it takes a lot of effort to gosh. I just saw a funny comment about my crap ton, so I got distracted. But yeah, you just gotta try it. Like if you take down that frequency and you're like, oh, it got boxy, or it doesn't feel like it's as bright anymore, then maybe don't take it out, or maybe don't take out that much. Again, I'm really subtly EQing. I'm not ever really going above 3 dB or negative 3 dB of reduction or gain.
Come with me.
I can even, with this shelf, kind of taper off that high end because, let's see where I'm at. Like 6 kilohertz, if we start tapering that off, it doesn't need to necessarily sit on top of this vocal because I'm already singing higher notes than the male vocal.
Come with me into the maze. We'll get lost and found in its astral haze.
I'm not mad at that. And for the sake of time, I'm just going to kind of keep going. And let's talk about this compressor.
Come with me into the maze. We'll get lost and found.
It's the same thing. Same good vocal moment to point out the "we'll get lost" and how much louder that comes out.
We'll get lost.
So I'm just going to bring that threshold down to that point.
We'll get
Negative 20 dB.
We'll get lost and found.
And then 5. Who cares? I wanted to say something even worse, but who cares? Just do it. 5 to 1. Compress it.
Lost and found in its astral haze.
And let's play with this attack time. Let's see what we got. I'm going to bring this output up like 5 dB, just so you can hear it a little bit better. And let's move this attack knob.
We'll get lost and found in its astral haze. Close your eyes.
So it really just starts to like come out so much, right? Once that attack is so long as it is.
Lost and found in its astral haze.
We just need it to be slightly there, especially in conjunction with these male vocals.
Haze will get lost and found in its astral haze. Close your eyes, take my hand. We'll dance with all the gods in their abstract lands.
Okay, cool. Last thing I need to do is properly set up my output on this compressor. So again, navigating back to session view, I'm going to turn the compressor off and check out my peak level.
With me,
-15, beautiful round number.
with me.
-17, so that means we need to go up 2 more dB, right? Yeah. So we're going to 5, 6, 7. There we go.
With me into the maze, we'll get lost in.
I mean, you really hear that compressor just helping glue the whole part together. Let's take it from that top.
With me into the maze, we'll get lost and found in its astral haze.
Again, without the compressor.
With me into the maze, we'll get lost and found in its astral haze.
Cool. I think with the compressor, so much more upfront, so much more glued together, and once the whole track comes in, we'll really be able to tell. One question that we had is any tips for getting to train or know your ears to hear these subtle frequency changes? Yes, that is to record yourself. You're going to be the harshest critic to your own vocals, and it'll also just help you so much more to get comfortable to hearing your own voice and hearing what I wouldn't say is wrong with it, but what can be attuned. And that way, when you're listening to other people's voice, you can kind of step out of that that very judgmental place that you've been in and actually listen to it with open ears instead of having that very judgmental mind, which I think helps you develop these tools, especially if it's your own vocal. You're gonna be a lot more harsh about how it sounds than if you're working with someone else's vocal. I mean, I definitely spent more time working on Josh's vocal in this instance, but it's because I know quickly what to do with mine. And so it's just repetition, right? It's like, how do I get good at Ableton? You just do it, and then it works out. All right, I'm going to keep it moving here. So the next thing I want to talk about is parallel processing. Please, anytime that you are working with a space effect, a spatial effect, anything that's creating depth, delay, reverb, put them on a parallel track. This is going to save on CPU. And what I mean by parallel track, especially in context to Ableton, is a new return track. So now I'm going to move myself over here. So you can see I just created a return track down here. So this track, what we do is we send the audio to this track, and this track is being 100% processed with whatever audio effect we want to use. I said this saves on CPU because if you have a reverb on every single track that you want reverb, like in this instance, how many? Is that 20? Okay, that's 28 of his vocals, 28 tracks of his vocals, and then, let's see what we got here. Probably, 10 more, 5 more of my vocal. So it's like a lot of CPU, especially if you drag this back into your production session. You can see how that would cause some issues. As well, with having one return track, we can create one space for all of these vocals to live in, and then depending on how much of the dry audio we're sending to that reverb can depend on how reverbed out or how delayed or how processed they are. So with the background vocals, I'll send even more, to make it sound like they're further tucked away, but also, more like a background vocal. Is there other reasons? I'm trying to think. I feel like there are other reasons. So you got saving on CPU, you've got one space, right? There's got to be another reason. Oh yeah, because you're also keeping 100% of a dry signal. So these vocals are going to be 100% dry and with a layer, with another track, a bed of wetness, of reverb. So I'm not compromising any of my signal that I've just worked so hard to make sound so clear. I'm going to add a layer of this reverb to, just help put it in a space, to help create that space. All right, I've talked enough. You've heard enough. Let's just do it. All right, I'm going to go navigate to Max for Live. Don't be too scared. I'm just going to grab the Convolution Reverb Pro, which, in my opinion, is the best reverb that you can get for free with Live Suite. It's pretty good. I like my return tracks, right? Okay. Let's just go ahead and I'm going to scroll back up to my chorus male vocals, but I really want to dial in this reverb before I do anything. So let's talk about it. Again, parallel track. We said that this is 100% wet. So the first thing I'm going to do is take that dry wet knob and give it 100% wetness. The next most important aspect or parameter is the pre-delay. If you don't have pre-delay, basically what this is the delay from when the signal has come in to the reverb to actually start reverberating. It takes time for my vocal in a space to start reverberating because it takes time for my sound to travel, hit the wall, hit the next wall, and start to reflect. If you don't have pre-delay, it sounds extremely unnatural. If you love it super wet and, just grimesy, then, maybe you can get away with it. But I just want to point it out as something that I definitely didn't do later on, but definitely helped add a lot of clarity in my vocals once I started doing it. Some people will even zoom in and they'll be like, okay, how much until this vocal really reaches past the point of pronunciation so that I can have this reverb lock in. If I select that range of time, you can't see me because I'm in the way. You see that, okay, gosh, I can't. You see in the bottom left underneath the EQ that white text came up in live. It actually gives you the length in, or duration in milliseconds, seconds, and in beats. Bars, beats, and sixteenths. This is 250 milliseconds. So some people really get in and figure out that amount of time to have your reverb even be what maybe feels like a little bit delayed in time. Doesn't truly matter that much as long as you have some pre-delay of some sort. So I'm just gonna leave that there for now. We've got all of these places. So convolution reverb, all it does is, can you even see it? It's being weird. It looks really weird. Now my neighbor's mowing his lawn. Yeah, for some reason you can't see the convolution reverb. Oh, you know what? It's probably because it's max and because I'm sharing only my Ableton live screen. Let's see if I can very quickly, on the fly, change this. Yes? No. That's just my... Oh, that didn't work. One sec. This is embarrassing. Is it this one? No, that's worse. Good God. I think it's a no. I think it's a sad no that I can't get this to work. Unfortunately. Okay, but... Oh, God. If y'all can hear that, I'm really sorry. It's a Saturday. What can you expect? Anyways, with the convolution reverb, I'm sorry you can't see it. You know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to navigate to a good old boring reverb built into live. Yeah, you can see that. I don't want to do all of that, but okay. We're just going to use this. Okay, 100% wet on this return track. We've got a pre-delay that's already set at a nice little amount. Check out that convolution reverb, though. Seriously, it's freaking good. Let's see. The decay time is 1 second. I want to bring that up and really create some space. I'll do 2.5. And now what I'm going to do is talk louder than this lawnmower and start to gradually send some of my lead and my left and my right. So again, with the left and the right, that's going to be further tucked away in the mix. So I'm going to send more. So just listening to this.
Come with me into the maze. We'll get lost and found in its astral haze.
Nice.
Come with me.
just that lead vocal.
Come with me into the maze.
If you push pause, you can really hear when that reverb or how long it's taking. We only heard it for 1 sec. Oh, the lawnmower? Yeah. Well, it bothers me. Okay. I keep hearing it. I don't know what they're doing. All right.
Come with
So that's at -18, maybe -22.
Come with me into the maze.
That sounds nice. And then these two backgrounds.
Come with me into the maze.
Yeah. Nicely at -15. And then with my vocals, we're going to really reverb them out. I love being the background vocalist. All right. Again, I could probably get away with just sending this entire group to this return track, to this reverb, but so let's just try that out.
Come with me into the maze. We'll get lost and found in its astral haze.
Without reverb.
Close your eyes.
It's just like so sad without reverb. Next thing I'm going to do, I wasn't planning on doing it, but this is not the same EQ I was rocking. Reverb I was going to be rocking, so I'm going to use an EQ.
Come with me into the maze. We'll get lost and found in its astral haze. Close your eyes.
I'm just going to take away that 400 muddy boxiness. I frequently... I don't know, someone said one time to me, 400, just take it out. It's gross, it's nasty. And I've heard other people like boost 400 and love it. I think for this situation, I already know that there's going to be a lot of bass frequencies and lots of synths in the actual track. So I just want to clean that up a little bit.
Come with me into the maze.
Okay, I'm into it. Let's hear it with the track.
Come with me into the maze. We'll get lost and found in its astral haze. Close your eyes, take my hand. We'll dance with all the gods in their abstract lands.
Okay, I'm going to turn that track up 1 dB. And my vocals are just really coming out louder than his. So I'm going to turn myself down a dB, maybe 2, just for safekeeping. Let's check it out super quick.
Come with me into the maze.
Okay. Last thing I want to do is a little bit more parallel processing because I love the vocals. I think they sound great and intact. But this is kind of my secret recipe, my secret sauce, if you will. Inserting another return track, turning it white because I think it looks nice. And then I'm going to grab overdrive. And you can grab saturator. You can grab really any plugin that's going to create a little bit of harmonic distortion on the top end. Because what I want to do is send these vocals to this overdrive and have a layer of a super distorted vocal that's going to help pop this vocal throughout the rest of the track. I'm not going to put up my background vocals because those are already popping enough. Hey. I'm going to actually just take this lead vocal and send it. The trick with true parallel compression, parallel overdrive, anything that when we have a return track, it's heavily doing that thing, compressing, overdriving, saturating. We want to actually take that vocal and send it all the way to that return track. All the way. And then with this overdrive, with this return track, I'm going to like taper off the volume here depending on where it needs to be. So just listening to this overdrive. Whoa, that hurt my ears. I'm sorry. I probably hurt all of yours too. I'm going to just turn it down because we know we're going to have to.
Come with me into the...
So that's what the settings were already set to. I'm just going to bring everything down and back to normal. What I want to find here is where that pronunciation is so that the vocals can really start to pop. That's going to be between 1K and 3K.
Come with me into the maze. We'll get lost and found.
So like right there around 3 kilohertz.
Come with me into the maze. We'll get lost and its astral haze.
Then we have tone, brightness.
Come with me into the maze.
And then how much drive.
Come with me into the maze.
Maybe that with some more brightness.
Found in its astral haze.
And then again, 100% wet.
Come with me into the maze. We'll get lost and found in its astral haze.
All right, now what I'm gonna do is just turn that overdrive volume all the way down. And when I click play again, I'm gonna gradually start to increase this overdrive until it sounds good, until I like the way it is.
Come with me
Here we go.
into the maze. We'll get lost and found in its astral haze.
Nice.
Close your eyes, take my hand. We'll dance with all the gods in their abstract land.
Without it,
Come with me
it's gone.
into the maze. We'll get lost and found in its astral haze.
With it,
Close your eyes, take my hand. We'll dance with all the gods in their abstract lands.
now that vocal is just sitting perfectly on top. I didn't have to boost it. The levels didn't need to change. We just needed a little bit more of that harmonic content to bring that out more. And I can do that with any other track. I can, when I work on the verses, I can, do this parallel overdrive. If I wanted it more on the background vocals, which I really don't, I could do that too.
Come with me into the maze. We'll get lost and found in its astral haze. Close your eyes, take my hand.
In fact, it's probably too much. If I'm being honest, it's probably just a little too much.
Come with me into the maze.
And then I'm just gonna turn down my vocal. I'm just gonna really be nitpicky here.
Come with me into the maze. We'll get lost and found in its astral haze. Close your eyes, take my hand. We'll dance with all the gods in their abstract lands.
Nice. So that was a little bit of parallel overdrive, using the overdrive that's built into Ableton Live. We also did some parallel reverb, how I think you should process all spatial effects, delays, reverbs, all on a return track or a send or a bus, whichever DAW you're using. And I EQ'd that a little bit. We also talked about compressing and the art of compression, what threshold is doing, how much you can compress with the ratio, and how important that attack really is. And then we looked at every single band type or every single filter type within an EQ. Talked a little bit about processing that and what frequencies we want to be looking out for. It was kind of a lot, right? But this sounds pretty good. If I could say so myself. I'm going to open the floor up to some questions, if I have any. One question that I'm seeing here is, what was the reverb I was going for at first, that Max for Live one? It's the Max for Live Convolution Reverb. Wrong tab. Right here. I was using the Pro version. These are really, really dope. I wish I could show you more because you can actually drag in your own impulse responses. Let me see if I'm just gonna drag in an older version, see if that one shows up. I don't think it's going to. I think it's all just, yeah, it's really funny. I think because it's a Max for Live device and I'm only sharing my Ableton Live screen, it won't show you Max for Live. So I find that really funny. But an impulse response is, just I'll do one real quick. That was me taking an impulse response of my room. So all you do is clap or pop a balloon and record how the sound reacts in that space. And you could do this at any place. Actually, I have a friend, we go on sound walks. Shout out to my girl Wawa. And we went into a cave once and brought all these balloons and just popped them with a needle and recorded how that cave reacted. So now we have all of these impulse responses of these caves. So I can sound like I'm singing in that cave without ever having to go sing in that cave. So it's a really, really fun reverb to play with. Logic has one, a convolution reverb called Space Designer, and you can do the same things. You can, cut up a impulse response and just drag it in. So they're really fun. Another question, how does genre play into how you process vocals? Great question. I'm mainly only mixing and working on my own vocals. I very rarely produce other people or even other genres of music because the people that I do choose to work with are similarly genred or classified as me. I think experimentation is key. I never end up mixing my own music. I just give the mix engineer a really, really great starting point for where I want things to be. In fact, I'll usually leave the EQ and compression on because those two things are just so crucial to making it sound clear and good and upfront that the fun comes with the parallel reverb, the parallel overdrive, maybe the megaphone effect. One thing that I like to do, and you can see that I've done it here with all of these vocals, this is how I would break up my own vocal session as well if these were mine. The verse, chorus, bridge, outro. The fact that these are all in different groups allows me to process them differently. So I'm never really thinking about genre to genre. I'm thinking about like the different sections of the song and what that feeling is. If it's really light and airy, more reverb, more delay. When it's the verse, maybe a heck ton more overdrive. Maybe I want it to have that megaphone effect. Maybe for the bridge, that's how that's going to be. So it doesn't, personally, I guess I don't have the experience to say that it changes from genre to genre because I'm thinking about the minute sections of each part of the song more detailed as a producer than I am thinking about the overall picture, because I feel like the overall picture is then being the mix engineer, and I have too much of a producer brain. This is a vocal tracking question, but do you ever track vocals with effects or only record dry? Great question. And what I'll do is I'll just open up my vocal template. I got my templates folder, vocal. So this is like what I start out with when I'm going to do a vocal session. And the answer is yes to processing. In fact, when I was in college, I used to process with auto-tune on, which I don't really recommend because if you're singing the wrong pitch and hearing the right pitch, you can really psych yourself out. But you can't see, I have the Convolution Reverb here already set up. I've got 4 vocal tracks ready to go with my input properly selected and reverb already being sent parallelly. So this template, this is just where I start. I've already got it labeled. I've got it pink because I like my vocals pink. And it just works for me. I've got a little bit of EQing going to make it sound brighter. A little bit of a compression going as well. I'm using the Glue compressor by Cytomic. You can use literally whatever. But yes to the slight processing. What I think about, if I was in a fancy studio, we would be going from my mic into a preamp, probably into a channel strip or EQ and compressor. So I try to emulate a little bit of that going directly into the box. And this is the best way that I've found to do it. I think it's really helpful to create one of these templates for yourself. And as you can see, all these templates that I have, they're just sessions. They're just Ableton live sets without any audio or any information in it. And when I start recording or when I'm ready to record, I just, file save as this new song or this new idea that I'm working on. I'm going to give it 15 more seconds for any questions. Hear the lawnmower. What are some other audio effects I use besides EQ and compression? I mean, let me show you. So one thing that you can do if you're working in live, and this is what I like to have, is like you can right click. I don't know if you can actually see that I've right clicked, but you can right click on the name in audio effects and click rank. You can actually organize your plugins or your audio effects by ranking of how often or frequently you're using this device. So this became really helpful because then I realized like, hey, I'm never using this dynamic tube or this external audio effect. And even if you open these up, you can see the different presets and how frequently you're using those presets, which is really great. So I'm using EQ, and compressing all the time. Utility, you've got to, especially, I mean, you've got width on here, so sometimes I'll make something extra wide, taking up a lot more of that frequency spectrum. If I need to do some specifics on the gain, I will. Auto filters are also really fun. Honestly, it's overdrive, compressing, and EQ. I also love drum bus. That's like my new favorite. I don't get too crazy with the vocal processing though. I like them to, I think it's really easy to get away with it. And I've had fun using hardware to do that, like a vocal processing pedal. I've got the TC Helicon Voice Live 1. It's like the little blue one. I think it was the first one that they came out with, and that's been fun. Sometimes I'll take the output of my computer, I'll have my vocals, make them perfect, then take the output of it from my computer into that little TC Helicon and get some cool harmonics or some harmonies, if you will, and maybe like a low sub octave. Those are really fun because it's tactile. You're like really able to focus on the piece of hardware. I don't get too crazy. Another one of my favorites, though, just because it has to be, is FabFilter's de-esser. It's my favorite de-esser on the planet. If you're going to spend any money on plugins, you should definitely buy the FabFilter de-esser. It's totally worth it. And if you have sibilance issues like me, it'll be great. Can I talk a little bit more about my experience becoming an Ableton certified trainer? Sure. I guess I'm gonna segue out of live for this. I became an Ableton certified trainer earlier this year. Honestly, I went to music school, but they didn't teach us Ableton Live, and I really wanted to be good at it. A lot of people in my major were utilizing it, and they taught us Pro Tools and Logic and Reason, and I got good at those DAWs, but yeah, Ableton Live just sounded like the coolest one. So I really started to shed it. I really just started to work in it and force myself to like it and get faster at it. What's so cool about Live is that it's really customizable. The way that you can key map any button or a parameter can make your workflow, depending on what DAW you've come from, integrate very easily. So after about a year and a half of teaching myself how to use it, and also in conjunction with lynda.com, which is where I took a few tutorials, and the class that I took with Aaron Bear at Berkeley, that was really helpful. Then I heard about the certification, and I really wanted it. So I just continued to shed to keep working in Ableton Live, and then I read the manual 5 times now. It's 700 pages, and it's the best written manual I've ever read in my life. I think you have to enjoy those kind of things. But it's seriously so well written. So if it's something that you're considering, then please read the manual. You got my info over here. You can just hit me up and ask me a question or two. I'm always down to help out with that kind of stuff. It was hard, but it was really challenging in a way that I haven't really felt myself be inspired in the same way as a teacher. I feel like I'm constantly having to inspire other people. So sometimes I'm like, well, now I don't care about this anymore. Or why am I going to open up this session for me now? Because I've had to open up all of these sessions for other people to talk about all these other things. So it really helped solidify a little bit more of an establishment between how I feel as a producer and as one who uses Live. But it also allowed me to work with a lot of cool people that have that same drive. So it's been a really cool experience. It's only been a few months since it all happened, but I'm glad I did it. All right, I've kind of gone over my hour time, so I guess I'm going to wrap it up. Again, my name is Danielle Thwaites. My artist name is Daiza. I make music under the name Daiza. And I really appreciate Beats by Girls for having me be a part of this. It's so great. And yeah, hit me up. Appreciate y'all.